Okay, so a little bit of a different session today. There's a bit of a request for more flexibility, a bit more mobility, and muscle support rather than normal jukendo session. So that's what's going to happen right now. So we're just going to start off with a bit more of a stretch. Feel free to keep on a few more layers. Better to be a little bit warmer and then take something off because it's going to be slower paced than a normal jukendo class. So we are pretty much going to be working our way sort of from top to bottom. So just to start with, just looking from side to side, just gently turning the neck, not pushing it too far. We're just loosening it up a little bit. And then bring it to the shoulder. So again, just gentle. This is giving you a bit of a stretch along the neck. So just let it stretch gently. Think about pulling down with the hand. Hey there, Caleb. I'll just pin myself to make it a bit easier. There we go. There we go. So just a nice gentle stretch along here. As I was mentioning just before, feel free to keep a jumper or a jacket on just to keep a little bit warmer, because it takes a bit longer to warm up the muscles this one. Just rolling the shoulders back, so big circles. Try and make sure you're getting as big a motion as you possibly can, so up to the ears and then down as far as you can. And then coming forward. Okay. Just bring both arms above your head. So I'm just holding my hands together, pulling up so my shoulders are getting a nice stretch. And then relax. Pull it up. And relax. Bring it up. This time just bend slightly to one side so you're getting a stretch along the side of the body now. So actually pull with the other arm to extend that stretch a little bit. Then come to the center, grab the wrist of the other hand, pull to the other side. Come back to center. Then just gently reaching over to the side. So you're trying to make sure that your body's not leaning forward or backward, it's staying in line with your legs. So leaning across, and then pull the arms along the body as you change to the other side. All right. This time what we're going to do is we're actually just going to bend forward. So we're getting a bit of a stretch up the back. We're trying to keep our back straight. We're reaching forward with the arms. So trying to keep them in the same line as our head and our body. So just reaching forward and getting a little bit of rotation in the hips as we go across the body. And coming back to the center after this last one, arms in front of you. And just gently let your body roll down to the ground. So try and reach towards the floor. Doesn't matter if you can't reach it, just wherever is comfortable. Grab your elbows with your hands and just let your upper body hang there. So let your head hang down. That'll help give you a nice stretch up the back of the legs. Just breathing in. And then gently bring your hands down to wherever you can. If you can reach the floor, great. If it's just your knees or calves, that's fine. We're going to lean to one side. So we're lunging to one side, getting a stretch along the straightened leg. And you can put your hands on your knees for support, or you can put them on the ground, wherever it works for you. And then gently move through the center to the other side. If you want to, you can widen the legs to make the stretch deeper. Again, entirely up to you. Just make sure that your knee is going over your toe on the bent leg. Make sure it's not going out to the side or coming in. Again, walk yourself through the center to the other side. And back. And over again. And back. Come back to the center. I want you to turn your feet out so your knees and toes are pointing out. Come up a little bit. Just going to come into a bit of a wide squat. Use your hands to support yourself. And then just release and come up. So I just want to check the list of what I had on here. Okay, let's do a couple of bit of chest stretch. So hands behind the head, pulling the elbows back. Just keep it nice and open. Just focus on your breathing. Think about opening up the chest, letting it come forward as your elbows pull back. Pulling up through the spine so you're not tilting in any direction. Release the arms. Bring one arm across the body. Gentle stretch, shoulder down, elbow straight. And changing sides. Okay. So next thing I want to do is just loosen up the shoulders a little bit. This can help with the back and sometimes with the neck too. What I really want to do is focus on moving them in one direction. So I'm going to stand to the side so you can see a bit easier. So I'm keeping the arms very relaxed. I want to think about pulling them up as close to these as possible, holding for a second, and then just releasing. Pulling up and releasing. You might feel a little bit of funny nerve reaction in your fingertips on the drop. You can always do it a bit slow, but all we're really doing is just trying to release the tension in those shoulders. One more up. This time I want you to think about pushing down. So try and push the shoulders down and then let them rise back up to neutral. Push it down and back. Down and that, normal. Down and neutral. Then try pushing them forward. So just think about in the shoulder joint, all you're doing is trying to move the shoulders forward in the joint, back to the center, and then rolling back in the joint, back to center. So we're just isolating those movements. And shake them out. All right. Let's do a few hip isolations. So we're warming these up. We'll start by just doing some very gentle circles. So just start off small, starting to loosen them up. And then gradually get bigger as you start feeling more comfortable. And back the other way. And back up. So feet still kind of semi-wide underneath the hips. We're just going to isolate the hips a little bit more. So I want you to bend the knees, keep them soft. I want you to think about tilting your pelvis up at the front and pushing down at the back. So basically doing a bit of an Elvis thrust or a Michael Jackson pelvic thrust and coming back to neutral. So all you're doing is just that raise forward and come back to neutral. So think about squeezing the buttocks in and then relax. In and relax. One more. In and relax. Now I want to go the other way and tilt the pelvis up. So I want you to think about compressing a little bit in there as you push out. So push the hips back and neutral. Doesn't have to go far back. You're just changing the angle again. All right. And then we're going to do this to the side. So again, keep your knees soft. I just want you to think about trying to shift one hip up. So keeping everything above the pelvic girdle stable. So your spine, your chest, your shoulders aren't moving. You're just trying to move the hips. And you do that by just bending and stretching the opposite leg. We're keeping everything else above stable. So we're just isolating those muscles. All right, shake it out a little bit. What else do I have in mind for us today? Okay, so part of what I want to work on is a little bit of muscle support. Now I've got things a little bit warmed up. I'm just going to work through some very basic movements. So we're going to start with a very basic squat. So feet about hip width apart. You might want a bit wider if that's more comfortable for you. Feet either straight forward or a little bit angled out. The key thing is that your knees move in the same line as your toes, and that the knees don't end up going over the toes. If they do, just take your feet a little bit wider or turn them out a little bit more. So you'll find your own comfort level. Everything else, so standing up straight, you want to keep all of this pretty much where it is. Keep the chest upwards, keep your focus upwards. Just gently come down slowly, and then squeezing all the muscles as we come up. So squeezing the butt in particular as we come up. So if we take this slowly, it means our joints have a bit of a time to adjust. They're not getting jerked into position. And as long as we keep focusing on keeping the knees over the toes in that alignment, we can make sure that we're using our muscles correctly and we're not weakening those joints by putting the knee in a position it shouldn't be. All right, coming up. And take a little bit wider. I'm going to do this as side lunges. So again, you want to think about the knee coming over the toe or in line with the toe, but not past it as you come to the side. And then through the center and back through to the other side. Again, we're still trying to keep our upper body in the same position, so you're not leaning over forward over the knee. Again, we're doing this slowly so the joints aren't getting jerked around. It's much softer movement, and it allows them to warm up a bit more. All right. I'm going to introduce a little bit more movement. So we're going to go a bit back to that basic squat, but we're going to come down in this position, keeping the knees a little bit closer in. And all we're going to do is we're just going to pulse here gently. So again, just keeping the knees in line with the toes. Going to come down into a squat and just gently pulsing it back and forth. So we're not going for speed on these. You should be starting to feel it getting warm in your quadriceps up the front here. Yeah, just focus on that knee alignment. If it means that you have to think about pushing the knees out or keeping them drawn in, as long as you're paying attention to that alignment. And relax. I should be feeling reasonably warm at this point.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to start working a little bit further down on the legs. I'm just going to move the camera down a bit. You can see what I'm going on about. I'm actually going to use a chair for this, so feel free to sit down during this part. So let's just take the socks off. Just going to start with your good old ankle circles. Keep them raised, or you can keep them under here. But what I want you to do is really try and draw around the clock. So if you see a full circle there, try and use your big toe to draw around that circle. And then coming the other way. And the other foot. It may take a while before the motion becomes smooth, especially on your less dominant foot. And the other way. Okay, we're going to do some flexion and extension. So you can either do this directly on the floor by just coming up into the balls of the toes. So balls of the toes and then down, balls and then heels down. That's fine. If you want to do it with your legs in the air, so it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You can have a bit of softness in the knee and just point. You'll get a bit more extension that way through the toes or the front of the foot. Just to make sure that that's all that's working. Okay. Next thing I want you to do, and just depends on what you've got handy. If you've got a towel, if you've got a cushion, if you've got a pillow, You've got something reasonably soft, a pair of socks. Just when you grab that, we're going to put them between the ankle bones. So we're basically holding it in place with our ankle. So just see whatever you've got handy. Doesn't have to be anything big. I just happen to like the size of this one and the fact it's quite squishy. So we're going to do the flex and extend again, but now we're going to be trying to push in and hold the item with our ankles. So we're trying to just maintain a bit of pressure on the item in question. So you're working the muscles alongside your ankles. So your ankles should hopefully be starting to feel a little bit looser at this point. The flexion motion shouldn't be quite as difficult anymore. You might be getting a little bit further with it. I'm going to keep the item, whatever you've got there, in its place. So you can have your feet pretty much flat on the ground if you want for this. And all we're going to be doing now is using our ankles to press in. So try not to engage your knees. I know that's going to be hard, but what you really want to focus on is the ankles trying to squeeze together. And as I said, it's almost impossible not to engage the upper legs to some degree, but as long as you're keeping the focus on the ankles and you can feel them pushing in. So it's just kind of a push in and a relax, push and relax. You can see my knees are wanting to go as well. It doesn't have to be a big movement. Again, this is just working on those stabilizer muscles. I'm going to take the item, we're going to move it up to the knees. And now again, we're going to try and make sure that we're focusing on the knees or the muscles around the knees doing the work. So again, it's a squeeze, hold, two, and relax. Squeeze, hold, two, and relax. And you should feel the muscles starting to tremble a little bit as you do this. You can move the feet closer in if you want as well. It'll give yourself a chance to put some more pressure on there. So a lot of the times when we get injuries in the legs, pains in sort of the knees and the ankle area, it's because the supporting muscles haven't been doing their job because they haven't been given enough work or enough strength to really do that job properly. So these ones are really just to help build up some of that muscle support and to also get you thinking and paying more attention to the alignment of your knees with your toes. So as long as they're stacked, you've got a much better chance of not getting an injury. It's when the knees come off the alignment, like they twist off or they're coming in or pushing out from the toe line, that you're much more likely to get quite a painful reaction in the knees. And just a couple more. You're going to take whatever you've got. Now I'm going to move up between your elbows, if you can hold it there. I'm doing the same thing. So I'm keeping my hands up and my wrists relaxed. I'm trying to focus on my forearms, squeezing the item in. So try and keep the hands as relaxed as possible during this. If you need to adjust this, that's fine. So you'll be getting a little bit of work from your shoulders as well and your back muscles. That's okay. As long as you're feeling everything tensioning up, starting to strengthen a little bit, having to do some work. I'm going to move it up between the wrists now. So again, try and keep the fingers fairly relaxed, but you're kind of pushing against just below the palm at the wrist point. That's where the focus of the pressure should be. So you should be getting less action from sort of the shoulders and the back now. Yeah. So you can hold your hands wherever is comfortable, so low, high. Okay, give that one a rest. Staying with the wrists for the moment, I do want to do a little bit of flexion and extension with them. So you can do this either on the floor, against the wall, on the chair, whatever you like. So all we're going to start off with is just this flexion position. So if you're doing it on chair or the floor, all you're doing is making sure, I'm going to do it on the floor because it's easy for me here. is that you're stacking your shoulders over in line with your elbows and wrists to begin with, kind of a 4-point kneel. And all we're doing is we're just pushing into the floor with our palms. So just think about pushing away using your palms and then relaxing. Push and relax. Push and relax. Then try walking the hands in a little bit closer to your body. But lean forward so you're creating a bit more of an extreme angle. Again, if you can't, that's okay. It depends on your flexibility in that wrist. And again, just that little bit of tension, push and relax. Don't do these ones very long because, again, the wrists aren't used to this, so it takes a bit of work. You just do it as much as you feel comfortable before you relax. You're going to turn the hands the other way. So it's going to be palms are up, fingers are pointing towards you. So again, start with your shoulders stacked over your wrists. And think about pushing down with your hands, with your wrists towards the floor. It's not a big tension. And then you can relax. Again, take your time on this. When you start feeling comfortable, you can start kneeling back a little bit. So bring the backside towards the bum, or backside towards the toes. So you're creating a bit more a line of angle. And at that point, you're probably going to do less pressing and more just letting the stretch happen. And relax. You're probably going to be feeling a little bit stiff after that. I just want you to start praying. What we're going to do is hands together. What we're doing is we're doing a rotation forward and a rotation back. So you can have the hands in close there if you want, or you can have the elbows out that way. Depends on what pressure you like. The fingers don't have to be close together. You can have them in a wide stance. You're just putting a little bit of pressure against each of them, so they're still getting a bit of flexion, but we're also working on that rotation. All right, shake them out a bit. Now, if you've got anything in your room, you can use as a weight. It could be a dumbbell, it could be a bottle of water, it could be a book. It doesn't have to be heavy. In fact, it's probably a good thing if it isn't too heavy. Yep, that's fantastic. And feel free to swap over the weight whenever you need to. I want you to choose your less dominant hand. So normally if you're right-handed, that'll be your left hand. Your left-handed, your right. But again, just depending on what parts of the body you work from different martial arts, one of them may be slightly unexpectedly stronger than the other. The idea with any kind of exercise is you should work from the capacity of your weakest side, because otherwise you're going to be pushing it beyond the bounds of what it can do if you try and make it match your strong side. So all we're going to do is place that weight on that hand. The palm is up. We're trying to maintain a straight line between our hand and to our elbow. So you can have it down low, you can have an up angle, but this 90 degrees is probably quite good. Then you can kind of support the elbow against the body. And all we're trying to do is hold that weight up there. The closer the weight is to the fingers, the more you're going to have to work that wrist to maintain it in position. This is just an isometric hold. We're not doing any flexion or extension. We're just making it work by trying to keep it in place, by not letting it fold backwards, basically. And if you've got something that's unstable, so like a bag filled with sand or water, that's actually quite good too, because then you've got to deal with that instability. Now relax, going to move it to the other hand. So again, and you can have, wherever it's comfortable, you can have it out to the side. Doesn't really matter so much because you're still working the same position. Obviously, if you bring it in and it's supported on the hip, you're going to be getting a little bit less work on the forearm. So just depending on the weight of your weight, that may actually be necessary. So this one here is 3K. It's quite a heavy weight on the wrist. So 1 or 2 kilos when you're starting out. Plenty. So just keep focusing on keeping that weight there. So as you get more and more used to it, relax. Your wrist will be able to hold this longest more stably without it starting to wobble. And that'll just help with this strength in your wrists and forearms, which again is probably quite a consideration if you're doing any kind of martial art. Again, grabbing whatever weight you've got. So I think you had a bottle, which is probably quite good for this. You might need to hold it in both hands, and that's fine. So all we're going to do, I'll grab my second one as well, because it doesn't hurt to have both. You have one or two weights there?
One.
Okay. All right. So we'll do this as a single one. So all we're going to do is basically wrap our fingers around the weight, whatever it is. We're going to hold it in front of us so the arms extended. So the wrists are facing each other. And again, we're just trying to keep it there without moving. And so you'll be starting to feel this in a little while, depending on the weight between on your upper arm, your lower arm. And for things like these joints, especially like some of the wrist and the ankle, where they don't tend to get worked on, an isometric hold like this is actually quite good because you're not having to put it through extremes to build up the muscle. And relax. Take it in one hand now. Are you able to hold it one-handed upside down?
Oh, let me see.
Maybe not.
If I can wrap my fingers around it, maybe, you know, it's
okay. See how you go.
Difficult, you know.
That's right. If not, that's okay. We'll move on to a different exercise. Because another good exercise is basically, so this is palm down, holding it out at shoulder height. And again, so any of these holds are really quite good for the arm, for all the muscles. And depending on which way you've got it turned, so if this is palm down, or you've got it palm in or palm up, that's all working at slightly different. And you can work through it, so you can go from up to the side, down, side, up, or you can just hold it in one position. So I'm just going to do rotations. Feel free to hold it in one position. And relax. Change the other arm. So whichever position you're holding it in. Again, if you want to do the rotation, just take it slowly. Can relieve some of the tension on that muscle to have that rotation going. And the key thing is really just to make sure that your wrist is staying in line the entire time. Okay, relax. Grab that weight. I'm going to do a soft tricep stretch. So what's going to happen is you're going to hold it between your hands. You're going to take it over your head. Keep your arms close to your head. And all that's happening is we're trying to let that weight go back by keeping it, while keeping our upper arms beside our ears and coming up. So the lighter the weight is, the more of these you can do. The heavier, the less you're going to do, but the more you're going to feel it. This is working the triceps. And again, I said it's quite key to try and keep your arms as close to your head as possible. When you do have a couple of weights, or if you do have a few different weights, you can basically do more between the arms. But the key thing is that you're always working the same weight on each side. Coming up to the top, we're now going to take it down in a count of 4 and then coming up in 4 counts. So from the top, we're going back, 2, 3, 4, and up, 2, 3, 4. Back, 2, 3, 4, and up, 2, 3, 4. One more. Back, 2, 3, 4, and up, 2, 3, 4, and relax. Again, the heavier it is, the harder a slow count will work for you. But again, it's great with little weights as well. So anything is fine. Good set of encyclopedias that'll keep you going for a while if that's a nice big one. We're just going to do a few little exercises. So again, we're going to go back to the legs and the glutes. We're going to go back to the chair. So we have previously done a lot of squats. What we're going to do this time is a sit stand. So you actually start sitting and you have your feet kind of in a 90-degree line with the legs, feet pointing forwards. Again, you might need them a little wider depending on your comfort level. And all you're doing is you're focusing on these muscles driving you up. So from here, try not to lean forward too much, but think about driving up from your lower legs into a standing position. So you're going to need to squeeze the butt a little bit too, and then come back down. And then push up, and then down. If you want, you can keep your hands on your shoulders. That means that you're less likely to use them to help power the move, but if you need to use them, that's fine. And the reason we're doing this slowly is so that you can focus on where the control is coming from. So your body will have to pitch slightly forward, but you don't want it to bend right over. So you basically come to sort of the center where your weight will be centered, and then drive into the heels to come up. All right, come back to a seated position. We're going to do a few calf raises. So again, coming kind of to the edge of the seat, so it's just the back, as little of your bum on the chair as possible, really. Knees and toes close together. We're going to do a calf raise. So you're just basically going to push and roll up with your feet until you're up on the balls of the feet, and then roll it back down. So the nice thing about this is because we're doing it seated, you don't have to worry about all the extra body weight. You can focus on the technique. If you want to, you can put a little bit more of a gap so you can watch and make sure that your knees are staying in line with your toes. They're not drifting. If you want to add to it, feel free to grab a squeezy thing, go a little bit or as wide as you need, and keep pushing in with the knees as you do the calf raise. And if you're feeling extremely mean to yourself, you can actually put a weight across your lap. So, you know, you can grab a book, what have you. I'm not sure if I can do this with the 5 kilo bag on here. Let's find out. So, but again, while you're seated, focus on the alignment of your knees over your toes and your ankles without having to deal with all the extra weight from your body. Yeah, there's a lot of variance on this. So this is mostly just to make sure we're focusing on the right position. I'm going to get rid of this for now. All right, I'm going to take the legs wide if you can. I'm not sure what your chair's like. But basically coming edge of the seat again, legs wide. And we're doing the same thing, but raising up with our legs angling open. So really push out to the side, and come up in the calf raise. Try and make sure that both legs are coming up evenly. Keep everything a little bit tense so that all the muscles are working. They're starting to feel a bit warm. Good. All right. We're going to move this to a standing position now. So again, I'm using the chair. You don't have to. You can use the wall, or you can do it freeform if you like. We're going back to those calf raises. So knees and toes close together, pulling up, squeezing everything in your legs together. And all we're doing is a very gentle come up onto the toes and then rolling it down. We're going to take it in counts of 2. So 2 to go up. 1, 2, down, 2, up, 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 2, down, 2. We're going to come up again, so up, 2. We're going to bend the knees. So in bent position. We're going to come up and then come down for 2. So up, 2, bend, 2, straight, 2, down, 2, up, 2, knees bend, 2, up, straight, down, 2, up, bend, straight, and down, up, bend, straight, and down. So keep focusing on keeping everything aligned. Make sure your knees are working in that alignment. Squeeze up through the backside, through your legs. Come up. We're going to bend. We're going to stay there in that raised bend. I'm just going to pulse gently. And this is where the chair or the wall is good for a little bit of extra balance. We're just holding in that position. We're really working the quads at the front here. We'll go for a few more pulses. 3, 2, 1, and straight and down, up, bend, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, straight and down. I'm going to do another variant of the calf raise here. I'm going to start both feet flat on the floor, heels on the floor, bend the knees. And this time we're just working on going straight to on the toes from this position, but keeping everything lower. So all that's happening is the knees are being shot forward underneath the body.
Yep.
This is still working your lower leg, but this one's focusing more on the soleus, which is, so the big round muscle at the top of the calf, that's the gastrocnemius. But underneath that and more central is the soleus. So that's working this one a little bit more. You're going to be feeling it in everything. We're going to do 2 more. 1. Right. They should be feeling a bit sore at this point. 1, 2. Again, if you've got something to lean against, that's great. Take one leg back, and I want you to bend the front leg. So we're stretching out the muscles on the back leg, which is nice and straight. If you've got a chair, you can, or table, you can just lean a bit more forward into it, wherever you like. So just relaxing into that muscle as we breathe. And change it over. And relax. I'm just going to check the time. Okay. So we have about 20 minutes. Now, I know you said you were pretty sore from yesterday. Is there any particular body parts that are still feeling quite sore or you'd like to stretch out?
Good question. I think we've gone through pretty much everything, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that's a little bit achy still?
Good question. Well, maybe knees, I suppose. I also went for a bike ride earlier today. Yeah.
Okay, so they're probably feeling a little bit sore there. All right, so let me just think about them. The knee joints itself, or just muscles around the knee?
Probably muscles around it, I think. Yeah.
Okay. They're a bit harder to deal with without just kind of giving them a rub down. So we will look at that at some closer to the end, I think. Just make sure we do those. But upper body's feeling okay?
Let me think.
How about the shoulders?
Yeah, maybe the shoulders and the back. Yeah, there was a lot of like hammering things yesterday. So yeah, maybe the shoulders and back, I think would be yeah.
All right. Let's have a look at stretching some of those muscles out then. So this is looking more at the stretching side of it rather than the exercise part of it. So I'm going to come to the floor just because it's easier for some of these. You work with whatever space you need to. We're going to kind of do a little bit of a spinal rotation. Just bring this a little bit more. So I've got both legs out in front of me. I'm going to bring my left leg over the top of my right, so it's crossed over the top. And then I'm going to bring my left arm on the inside and I'm going to rotate around. So this is a spinal stretch. So it's helping open up the chest, open up the spine a little bit. Try and make sure you're staying upright. You're not kind of slouching into it because that'll just help everything to extend. And then swap and turn the other way. So your right arm will come on the outside of your left leg. And relax, going to change legs. Bring the right one over the left. And then the right arm inside the left as you rotate. And then swap it over. Okay. We're going to do some angels, which normally you'll do on the floor. Basically, what's going to happen is you lie on your stomach, feet together. What we're basically focusing on is the rotation of the arms down. So really what you're seeing is kind of coming from up above the head to down beside the body. The kind of waving is if you're making a bit of a snow angel with your arms. Not that I've ever made a snow angel, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to work. And you think about retracting your shoulder blades as you do so. So when you're on the floor, you can actually add a little bit more of a back stretch. So arms extended in front of you. Raise the head and the chest slightly and bring those back. And then as your arms come forward, you can lay everything back on the floor. Then your head and arms come up. You retract your arms and shoulders and forward to the floor. So just do this in your own time. So you're breathing out on the upward moving, breathing in as you come back down. Couple more. And relax. Staying on the floor, we're just going to bring our hands underneath our shoulders and push back into a 4-point kneel. So you've got your shoulders above your wrists. Keep your fingers wide, like a nice high five. Keep your knees underneath your hips. And from here, what we're going to do is calf and cow, or cat and cow. So from the middle of your spine, just reach up towards the ceiling, let your head drop. So you're making a nice C shape. You're a cat stretching. And then release that and reverse it the other way so that you're creating more of a concave effect. And then just take it slowly as you breathe through those two positions. This one should help to just loosen up the spine and hopefully release any tension that you've got in there. Come back to a neutral position now. We're going to stay in this position, but from here, what we're going to do, I'm going to take my right arm up and twist up to the sky. So I'm opening up my chest. And then I'm going to scoop it in underneath, behind my left arm to pretty much lay my shoulder onto the floor. So this is going to stretch out that back shoulder area. And then you come back up, reach to the sky, and then roll back down onto the floor. And you can take your time with these. These don't have to be done fast, but they're opening up your chest and then letting you stretch out that shoulder and back. So breathing in as you come onto the floor, breathing out as you come up to the sky. And place your right hand back down. We're going to do the other side. So left arm open, breathing out. Breathe in as we come down to the floor. We'll do one more on this side. All right. How's that feeling?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Yeah? Okay, good. All right. So next few exercises, we're just going to stretch out the body a little bit. So going into a wide split stance, or however wide you can get it. And Liz, I just want you to sit there and find a position that you're comfortable with. So you've still got a little bit of stretch on the inner thighs. Think about rolling the knees and the toes backwards. So they're facing more towards the back. And then just move into a position. So whether you need to move your backside forward or back until you can sit comfortably. And then all we're going to do is a little rotation. So hands in front of you or on the legs if you prefer, or even behind you. What we're doing is we're trying to do a little circle in this position. It doesn't have to be fast. So the hands can help support the movement. So even if you want one at the front, one at the back. And this is just helping with our hip flexors opening up around that position. And go the other way. All right. Bring the legs together. We're going to go into our back and we're going to bring our knee to the chest one at a time. So you can keep both knees slightly bent on the floor to begin with. And then just bring back my right leg here. And I'm trying to get it as close to my chest as possible. I'm just squeezing it in. And if you want, you can let the left leg stretch out flat so it's getting a bit of a stretch too. I'm just holding it here. Just breathe to relax into it. What I want you to do from here is to put your hands under your knees, so around the thigh instead. And I want you to think about stretching, trying to straighten that leg as much as possible. It doesn't have to go fully straight, but all you're doing is you're creating some stretch on the underneath of the leg. And then relax it down. You can grab the calf if you like, or the foot, and do the same thing. So we're going from a stretch to a bend. The key thing is that you're getting a nice stretch along the back of the leg. On the next one, I want you to hold it up in the upright position. Even if that means you're grabbing onto a piece of clothing to keep it there, that's fine. We're just trying to hold it in that position and let it relax a little bit into it. Think about flexing your toes back behind you and then pointing straight to the ceiling. Flex the foot, point, flex, point, flex, and point. Relax that leg down to the floor. I'm going to bring the left leg up to the chest now. Just squeeze it in. Give it a nice stretch there. Tuck your hands behind your knee. Try and straighten it. Again, it doesn't have to be particularly straight, it's just a stretch. And then bend, stretch. And then you're going to find one leg you'll probably have to release it more. In this case, for me, it's my left leg. My hamstring is very tight on here. On the next one, try and keep it as straight as you possibly can, even if it means lowering it a little bit. Holding it there. Pulling it in a little bit closer if you can on each breath. And flex the foot. Point the foot. Flex. And point. Flex. And point. Flex. And point. Drop that leg. Going to give our back a little bit of a roll out now. So again, we're going to bring our knees towards our chest. Just grab your hands around your knees. And all I want you to do is think about pulling them up so that your backside rolls up a little bit. and then start doing little circles so it drops down to the floor, to the side, and then back up. So trying to open up that lower back with a bit of a stretch. If you want to, you can open up the legs a little bit more, so kind of in a frog position. Whatever is most comfortable for you. All right, bring the legs down. Then roll over. We're going to do child's pose just to, again, stretch out that back a little bit. So 4-point in pose, toes together, knees out, butt on your heels. And all you're going to do is just stretch forward with your arms, let your head rest on the floor. If you want, you can change the angle of it by raising your head up and then lowering it. Take the hands to one side. So just walk them to one side of your body. You're getting a nice stretch along the side of your arms. Slowly walk it back to center and through to the other side. Back to center. Just slowly walk yourself back up. And do another shoulder-based stretch. Now this one can be a bit extreme, so don't push yourself if it's feeling very uncomfortable, but see how you go. So we actually line our front this time. And we end up in a bit of a T position. I'm going to bring my right hand beside my chest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll my body so I'm rolling onto my left shoulder. My right knee is going to come up to brace behind me. So it's a very weird position. I'm going to try and show from here what it looks like. So my left arm is behind me, my right knee is up, and I'm using my right hand to brace me on the floor. And this is a quite strong shoulder stretch. So yeah, only take it as far as you're comfortable. Roll back to the center. Both arms out. Left arm beside your chest. And going to roll to your right side. Bring your left knee up. Coming back to center. Coming up. You can do a little chest stretch. So you're going to link the fingers together. And all we're going to do is push forward. So we're creating, push forward with our arms and our knees and let our back push backwards. This is stretching out the back. And release. Link the hands behind your back, palms facing in. I'm going to open up, pushing your chest forward. All right, let that go. Going to sit down on your backside, bring your feet together. Doesn't matter how far or close they're in. All we're doing is just stretching out here. So I want you to just think about pushing down towards the floor gently with your knees. Just try and hold it in position. And breathe into that. relax. Shake it out a little bit. Is there anything else that's still feeling a little bit sore or a bit tight for you?
No, I think it's all pretty much, pretty much fine now. I think all done. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. If you do need it, just do a few more stretches later on, especially if you're still sore after yesterday.
Right.
As I said, this one's a bit of an unusual class, but it is mostly just to go over some stretching techniques and to look at how we need to focus on supporting our muscles. And just some of those, especially those joint exercises, they don't seem like much, but literally just having a weight that your wrist has to stay strong for as you hold it in position, that's a lot of work. So trying it with like palms down, palm up, or palm to the side or facing inwards, you're going to be working those muscles quite gently. It's not going to put too much stress on the joints, but it's a great way to build those up. And those calf raises are really, really good for sort of the ankles and the knees. So they're a good thing to try and incorporate fairly frequently anyway. Yeah. I'm going to stop the recording now. Where is it?
Oh.
There we go.
Here we are.